I can safely say, despite some of the flaws with this remake, that it actually surprised me. When I saw the first trailer a year ago, I was actually hyped for the first time in years. But due to countless disappointments in gaming and other media from this year, my hype pretty much died out. I'm glad to say that I was wrong to worry, and that I haven't played a game that kept me so invested in a very long time. That said, it isn't a completely new game. In fact, it could easily be called a remaster. So, for the first order of business in this video, we'll look at if this game really is worth your money, because it is a full-priced remake after all. And before we start the video proper, this is more of a first impressions review rather than a full review. That one will be coming out in the next few weeks, so if you like this video, be sure to watch that one too. I'll probably put a pop-up here once it's done, so go watch it instead. So, is this game worth its ridiculous price of $80? Well, since it is a remake, or rather a remaster, I'd say no. The game looks stunning, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have enough new content for $80. You can play the original for free on an emulator, so if you're looking at it from a monetary perspective, don't waste so much money on it. It's far too expensive considering you don't get any new content. But if you're a type of person who doesn't want to play older games because of the outdated graphics, or you're like me and just really wanted to have it, I'd say go for it. But before you make your final decision, let's briefly go over the main issues of the game, first one being the optimization. I honestly couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that this game actually had an FPS lock. It seems that the unbroken chain of unoptimized Unreal Engine 5 games will not be broken with this game. I mean, what are we doing here? A few days ago I saw that Epic Games, aka the creators of Unreal Engine, commented that the optimization issues aren't due to the engine itself, but due to the incompetency of the developers. Honestly, it could be either at this point. It's probably both. So yeah, unless a mod already dropped, you won't be running this game in more than 60 frames, and even if you remove that lock, you probably won't be able to run it past 60 because the game is very demanding and unoptimized. Although I personally haven't had much issues, just looking at YouTube you can see many other people have this problem, so keep that in mind before purchasing. And again, there's really no excuse for this. The maps are small and there aren't that many enemies per map, so this just shows laziness on the part of the developers. The second issue you may have with this game is something I already mentioned, and that is the lack of new content. The only new thing that was added, besides the graphical improvements of course, is the new controls, which from what I saw are pretty much the same controls from MGS5. I don't know much about these new controls since I played on the legacy controls, or pretty much the original MGS3 controls, and I think everyone should play on those too. If it was up to me, I wouldn't even add the new controls, something which I'll talk heavily about in the full review, but I understand why Konami did. But besides that, there aren't any new significant additions. This game is very much the old Metal Gear Solid 3, and honestly, that's a good thing. I'll just briefly try to sell this game to people new to the series. So if you've played an MGS game before, you don't really need to hear this, and you can skip to this timestamp. Metal Gear Solid is a stealth game, first and foremost, and the game tells you that. Even though you might have an arsenal at your disposal, you aren't supposed to actually use it. A silenced pistol is all you really need to beat this game, for the most part. This game teaches you patience, especially in the beginning. You have limited resources, so you can't just put any enemy you see to sleep. You have to use camouflage and sneaking to your advantage. Sometimes it's better to wait for a few minutes for a better opportunity, because if they find you, it's not an automatic game over, but the game will make you wait even longer for the heat to die down. Or you can just run through the enemy fire to another area and hope it disappears. But yeah, to put it shortly, this isn't an action game. You won't be shooting your big machine gun at every enemy you see. You can still do that, don't get me wrong, but the game isn't meant to be played that way, which is emphasized by the award system you get at the end of the playthrough, and the mechanics in general. I mean, there's no way to be aggressive with these clunky mechanics if you're playing on legacy controls, which again you should. So yeah, that would be all. If you're not really the patient type or you just want to shoot things, this may not be the game for you, so keep that in mind. But let's get to the actual first impressions of the game, and I'll open up with this. How brilliant legacy controls are. Sure, they are clunky, they are unconventional by modern standards, and they are inconvenient, but they're different. The new controls feel like every other third-person shooter. Legacy controls offer a completely different experience, which will be refreshing for many people. It's because of them that the original game stayed in my memory for so long. I also predict that the game will be too easy on regular controls, because it was designed for legacy ones. It was designed with the fact that you'll be at the disadvantage because of the controls, because it's hard to keep track of your environments. Like I said, I'm really glad they kept them here. It's only now that I noticed just how big of a part they played in the overall experience of the original. The one thing that got an upgrade as expected is the visuals. This may be the most beautiful game I've ever played. Literal eye candy to a point where it can be a bit distracting. And I mean, there's not much to say here. Except maybe that I've heard some people talk about how they don't think hyper-realistic graphics really fit into this game, since it is pretty goofy at parts. The new graphics definitely give a more serious tone to the game, which some people will appreciate and others won't. To me, it's not that big of a deal. I do think that the art style of the original still holds a certain charm, but I also don't mind the eye candy. So, speaking of visuals, one thing that definitely got a downgrade are character facial models. Although most of them are pretty good, there are some that just look weird. It's not a huge thing, but with some of them it's really noticeable and distracting. I'll talk more about specifics in the longer review, but there's a trend in new games which heavily influenced how these faces look, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Another thing I have to compliment is the difficulty. You know it's based on an older game when hard difficulty is actually hard. It puts all other stealth games to shame, as enemies here are very perceptive, and leaving even a little bit of evidence can get enemies on alert and calling for reinforcements. And because the map isn't that big, you don't really have many places to hide from those reinforcements when they arrive. Like I said, with the legacy controls, so many parts of this game, so many details of the mechanics come together for a really enjoyable and tense experience. Like I already said, I'm really surprised at how good this game is. It has its flaws, but it was a very enjoyable experience. But again, I know most of it is owed to the original, and that's a big problem with me recommending this game to people, especially due to its high price. But all that said, it wouldn't be an overstatement to say that this game may be the most anticipated game of the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being my favorite game this year. Thank you for watching, and be sure not to miss the full review. Hope I see you soon.